Okay, picture this. You're trying to hang a picture frame and wham, you completely smash your thumb with the hammer. Yeah, it hurts. Like, it hurts bad. The throbbing pretty much starts immediately. So what do? You naturally walk right over to your medicine cabinet, you grab a bottle of Tylenol, pop a couple of pills, and within half an hour or so, the pain actually starts to fade. But as you're sitting there just staring at your unsmashed thumb, you might start to wonder about a deeply, deeply perplexing question. How does that little white pill actually know where the ouch is? I mean, how does it know to fix your thumb and not, say, your elbow?
So, how exactly does this painkiller know where the pain is? Well, let's dive right into this, because this is exactly the kind of question this explainer is all about. You'd think the answer would be totally straightforward, right? So, naturally, you head straight to Tylenol's official website. You're expecting this solid, irrefutable, deeply scientific explanation of how their flagship drug operates inside the human body. You want the hard science. But instead of some intricate map of molecular biology, you find something else entirely.
Right. So look closely at this exact phrasing. It is thought to work. Wait, what? Hold on. You're Tylenol. You are literally a global pharmaceutical giant. Can't you speak with just a little more authority about your own product? Well, as it turns out, no. No, they actually can't. And that shockingly vague admission from a major trusted brand, that is the absolute core of our mystery today.
And we aren't talking about some super niche experimental drug here. Let's really look at the massive scale of this mystery. By 2016, the data showed that 79% of Americans regularly use this stuff. It drives a colossal $9.5 billion market. Yet its active ingredient, acetaminophen, is essentially a magic bean. Nobody truly understands it. We know for sure it works, we know it's incredibly safe when you take the recommended dose, but for literally everything else, the world's top scientists are basically just guessing.
So how did we end up passing around billions of dollars worth of a complete mystery every single year? Well, let's look at Section 1, a 19th century pharmacy mix-up, the inciting incident.
Okay, so it's 1884. We've got these two physicians, Arnold Kahn and Paul Heap, right? And they're trying to treat a patient who has a completely terrible case of intestinal worms using a substance called naphthalene. But here's the catch. And honestly, this brilliantly illustrates the kind of absolute slapstick error that could only happen in the 1800s. The pharmacy didn't send naphthalene at all. Nope, they made a massive mistake and sent acetanilide, which is a chemical primarily used for manufacturing dyes. Like for coloring fabrics. They literally gave this patient dye-making juice.
So what actually happened to this poor patient? Well, the worms, they were totally fine, unbothered, survived the whole ordeal. But the doctors noticed something super weird. The patient's severe fever mysteriously vanished. So obviously suspicious of this miracle, they went back to the pharmacy, uncovered the giant mix-up, and realized they had accidentally discovered a brand new medical application. They quickly began marketing this literal dye water as a fever-reducing drug, branding it as Antifen.
But, as you might expect when you chug industrial dye chemicals, there was a slight catch. Antifen had a massive, undeniable drawback. It caused this side effect called methaglobinemia, which, is a beast of a word, but the concept is actually simple. It messes with your red blood cells so severely that it literally turns your skin, your nails, and your lips blue. We're talking a full-on Smurf effect. And understandably, patients weren't exactly thrilled about curing a fever only to look like a cartoon character. So researchers were forced right back to the drawing board.
Let's actually trace this timeline real quick, because the evolution here is just wild. After the whole blue skin fiasco of 1884, scientists obviously got back to work. In 1887, they synthesized two new, refined versions of the drug, phenacetin and acetaminophen. Now, phenacetin became the super popular choice for decades, until doctors finally realized it had a terrible little habit of completely destroying people's kidneys. Oops! Meanwhile, acetaminophen just sat quietly on the sidelines for over half a century. It wasn't until 1955 that it was finally dusted off, packaged up, and launched as Tylenol, and it was a smash hit. It handled fevers and pain beautifully, without turning anyone blue and without destroying their kidneys. But even back in 1955, the people selling it had absolutely zero idea how it was actually doing its job.
So how do we reverse engineer the drug's path today? Moving into Section 2, the science of ouchies, tracking our leading suspect.
To really understand why Tylenol is so incredibly confusing, we gotta look at the biochemistry of pain itself. Remember that hammer smashing your thumb? Well, when tissue damage happens, your body immediately springs into action. An enzyme called COX-2 starts cranking out these chemicals called prostaglandins.
But for the sake of this explainer, we're just going to use the highly scientific term ouchies. These ouchies flood the area and basically scream at your brain, making it hypersensitive to pain signals. And that is exactly why your finger throbs.
So the absolutely crucial point here is how our medicines actually attack these ouchies. Let's look at ibuprofen, like Advil. We know exactly how that works. Ibuprofen travels through your entire bloodstream acting like a bouncer, telling every single COX enzyme it sees to just shut down. This stops the ouchies and reduces the physical swelling and inflammation. But because it's shutting down literally all COX enzymes, it also turns off the enzymes that protect your stomach lining, which is exactly why taking Advil in an empty stomach gives you a tummy ache. Acetaminophen, on the other hand, is like a ghost. It doesn't cause a tummy ache at all, and it does absolutely nothing to stop the physical inflammation in your finger.
So basically, by observing what it doesn't do, scientists have been able to deduce where it probably hangs out. Because it absolutely doesn't act like ibuprofen, traveling the whole body and suppressing enzymes everywhere, our suspect must be bypassing the local tissue entirely. The working conclusion right now is that acetaminophen's work is almost entirely limited to your brain and your central nervous system. It's essentially intercepting the signal up there, rather than fixing the physical alarm bell going off down in your thumb.
But what is it actually doing once it gets up there to the brain? That brings us to Section 3, the suspects. 3 leading scientific theories.
Okay, so because we literally cannot observe this at a microscopic level inside a living human, some of these smartest biochemists on the planet are honestly just throwing darts at a dartboard right now. Here are the top 3 guesses. Suspect 1. Some researchers believe Tylenol travels everywhere, but is biologically blocked from activating except in areas of the body with very low peroxide levels, which, conveniently enough, perfectly describes the human brain. Suspect 2. A much weirder theory suggests that toys with your cannabinoid receptors. Yes, the exact same neurotransmitters that react to smoking weed, although I definitely need to clarify for this explainer, Tylenol will absolutely not get you high. And suspect 3, a theory that it somehow interacts with serotonin, the famous happy hormone, to basically just dull the perception of suffering. But again, nobody can prove exactly how.
So you gotta ask, why haven't we solved this yet, right? With billions of dollars on the line, why aren't we just tearing the labs apart to find the answer? Well, because paradoxically, we kinda don't need to. The medical community views acetaminophen as so incredibly safe and so highly effective that dedicating massive resources to figure out the why just isn't a priority at all. Knowing the exact mechanism wouldn't actually help us make a better version because, as one researcher perfectly put it, the drug we accidentally stumbled into way back in the 1800s is already essentially perfect for what it does.
And you know what else is essentially perfect and totally doesn't require a biochemistry degree to understand and enjoy? The incredible sponsor of today's explainer, Wild Grain. Just like our magic bean handles a headache completely seamlessly, Wild Grain is basically the ultimate magic solution for upgrading your kitchen without any of the heavy lifting. Seriously, Wild Grain is amazing. They partner up directly with small artisanal bakers across the U.S. to deliver fresh, handcrafted bread, pasta, and pastries literally straight to your front door. And the absolute best part, you can bake these goods directly from frozen in 25 minutes or less, which, ironically enough, is exactly how long it takes for a Tylenol to kick in after a hammer incident. Plus, unlike that mass-produced, nutrient-empty AI slop bread you find in modern grocery store aisles, Wild Grain uses a traditional slow fermentation process. This means it's vastly richer in real nutrients and much, much easier on your belly. No ibuprofen required. I am personally totally hooked on their sourdough. Right now, if you use the link down in the description, you can get $30 off your very first box. But honestly, the real reason you need to click that link is because Wild Grain is offering an absolutely insane deal. They're giving our viewers free croissants for life in every single box. $30 off and infinite croissants. You literally cannot miss out on that. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a question. Just something to chew on the next time you open up your bathroom mirror. We have blindly and very successfully trusted a literal mystery magic bean, one that was born from an 1884 pharmacy dye-chemical mix-up for over 70 years. It's an absolute pillar of modern medicine, and yet it is a total enigma. It really makes you wonder what else is sitting right there in our medicine cabinets, fully approved and daily consumed, that we just don't actually understand. Until next time, stay curious, keep learning, and hey, maybe be just a little more careful with that hammer.